above all, the demon of the track finds peace among the family clan he cherishes above all. Ayrton Senna has no children. In 1994, Brazil's most eligible bachelor has a girlfriend, but his priority is his job. For the moment, it is with nieces and nephews that he can enjoy the pleasures of childhood again, indulging in games where speed is never completely excluded. Despite his fortune, Ayrton is far from oblivious to the poverty in his country. 2 months before Imola, he shared with his sister an idea for an association for underprivileged children in Brazil. An ambitious project, devised in his offices in Sao Paulo, deliberately located in a working-class neighborhood. It is here that he runs his business affairs, under the watchful eye of Fangio, the absolute reference in Formula One, the only driver whose heritage he perhaps dares to accept. It took many long years for Senna, the boy from Brazil, from Sao Paulo, to realize his dream. Taking the checkered flag at the Interlagos racetrack, the scene of his first go-kart races. 3 years before Imola in 1991, he at last claimed victory here, perhaps his most treasured triumph. It was an heroic race, and Senna was pushed beyond his limits. The gearbox in his McLaren was broken, and only 2 or 3 gears were functioning. The Brazilian finished the legendary Grand Prix paralyzed with cramp.
We're in the last lap, and through the onboard radio, we can hear screaming. And all the television commentators were looking at each other going, "What's happening?" It was Ayrton, screaming because of the pain, because he'd fought all the way to the end. His arms and his hands were paralyzed. And at the same time, it was like a cry of deliverance, because he'd finally won the Brazilian Grand Prix. He'd wanted it so much. It was so important to him, so crucial.
At the end of that year, 1991, Senna was crowned champion for the 3rd time, joining Niki Lauda, Jackie Stewart and Alain Prost in the pantheon of the most honoured drivers in racing history. And above all, he is acclaimed as the greatest Brazilian hero. The second day of practice, a vital session for qualifying. Barely 24 hours after Rubens Barrichello's accident, drama strikes again. The Austrian Ratzenberger's Simtek Ford flies from a curve at 300 kilometers an hour and crashes into the safety barrier.
L'impatto è stato tremendo.
The impact was enormous. The car spun round 7 or 8 times, and what was left of it, as it had lost 3 wheels, came to a stop here. And I remember the terrible camera images. I mean, the car had just stopped, and I saw the driver's head leaning to the right, and I knew it was a really bad moment.
Roland Ratzenberger, 34 years old, like Ayrton Senna, but with only 53 days of Formula One racing against 10 years for the Brazilian. For the newcomer, the Imola Grand Prix represented his acceptance among the greats. His challenge was not victory, but qualification for the race. And to make a name for himself, Ratzenberger was prepared to give everything. In the heat of Imola on April 30th, he did just that.
It was in a moment where you are in the car, the helmet on, looking to the monitor, and just waiting for your slot to go out and to do your qualifying lap. And the qualifying lap is very stressful. you take a lot of risk. It's the biggest pressure. At this time, it was the biggest pressure on the whole weekend. So you are really nervous, concentrate, and then suddenly we all had on the screen the accident of Ratzenberger. We all saw Professor Watkins at the time putting a heart massage, and we all know if on a racetrack, if you're into a heart massage, then it doesn't look good at all. So that together all gave us a very hard time. I remember well myself also going out of the car, going back to the motorhome, and asking myself if it would be the right moment to stop.
Ayrton was standing next to me, and we saw Ratzenberger's accident happening live. It was a terrible shot, because we understood that he was dead, and he saw it too. I saw his face collapse. It was in the middle of the session. I saw that something very serious was happening inside him. He went quite pale, and he didn't get back into the car. With drivers at that level, that's quite something. It's very relevant because it's their job, and they know how to evaluate risk. They know exactly what they're doing. And that what happens to some of them doesn't necessarily happen to the others. Ayrton is a highly skilled driver. Nothing had ever happened to him. We mustn't forget that. He was even one of the breed of drivers who were almost invulnerable. And there, before his eyes, a man had died.
Deeply affected, seeing death on the track for the first time, Senna terminates the session. 2 hours after the accident, he goes to the track hospital to ask Dr. Piana for news of Roland Ratzenberger.
I'm shaking my head sadly, and he doesn't say anything. He understands the situation. He turns around without a word and leaves the hospital with his head down. In the days that followed, I met a marshal who said, I saw Senna leaving your hospital. He was going back to the pits, and he was crying. It was a very moving incident, because Senna was concerned about the condition of his compatriot, but also the newest driver, who was still unknown.
What is Ayrton Senna thinking about that Saturday evening? The next day's race? The obligatory victory? Or perhaps back in his modest hotel room, is he thinking about death? The death of Ratzenberger, the rookie, who confronted Formula One with harsh reality after 12 years without a fatality. It had almost been forgotten that drivers could die on the racetrack.